Good morning, everybody, and welcome into the Alabama pregame show brought to you by Medical Properties Trust. I'm your host, Simone Eli, alongside Michael Casagrande, the one and the only. Michael, week 4 already of the college football season. I feel like we were just talking about, okay, September 3rd is finally here. Now it's already September 24th. We're 4 weeks in. Vanderbilt at Alabama today. Kickoff set for 6:30. When you look at this matchup, what are your general thoughts going into this game?
I know people don't want to acknowledge it, but it's still somewhat of a tune-up game, still a preseason type of a game. Vanderbilt is not there yet. They hope to one day be on that level, but it's somewhat akin to some of these non-conference games where they've kind of needed it to fine-tune some things with the stretch of the schedule they have coming up. But yeah, I mean there's not a whole lot of excitement. I can't say it. I don't feel like there's been a whole lot of buzz talking about the Alabama Vanderbilt game this week.
Well, we're going to look at it just a little bit if we can before we get into the nitty gritty of Alabama, the tied 14-1 in SEC home openers. Vanderbilt, although they're not, again, at the caliber of certainly Alabama, but not even like a mid-level SEC team quite yet, it seems as though things are headed in the right direction. Nick Saban was very complimentary of what the staff has done from the Commodores program so far, with wins over Hawaii, Elon, Northern Illinois so far this year. I know that's not like the most competitive schedule on the planet, but for Vanderbilt to be 3-1 is better than the Vanderbilt of years past.
And if you're Vanderbilt, that's a smart way to schedule to open the season, that you want to build some confidence. You want to get a few wins under your belt before you head into the gauntlet that is SEC play. And
sure,
they I guess hung around with Wake Forest for a little bit, didn't win that game. But yeah, I mean, Elon put up big numbers. Northern Illinois, they went on the road to Northern Illinois last week, put up some big offensive numbers in Hawaii. So, it's about what you would expect. If you were to look at the preseason record, what do you think that Vanderbilt would be coming into this game? And 3-1 would make a lot of sense.
Sure. If you're just tuning in, it's the Bama pregame show brought to you by Medical Properties Trust. Michael Casagrande, Simone Eli. We are talking Vanderbilt at Alabama. Kickoff at 6:30. SEC Network will carry the game, a night game at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Michael will be there, of course, as he goes to every game. Michael, when you look at this Vanderbilt offense, true freshman A.J. Swan has put up some big numbers. He does lead the conference in passing efficiency. It's very early in the season, but it seems like this is one of those games where Nick Saban is going to tell his defense that let's just stick to what we do, play penalty-free, and play in a way where we're not making a bunch of mental errors.
Yeah, and it sounds like Vanderbilt runs with this quarterback at maybe a little bit of a different style, run the ball more, some different kinds of formations, some things that could frustrate and annoy a defense that was hoping to see more, they'd see more traditional type of offenses. So especially with the kind of preparation they're working for the next couple of weeks, it's kind of one of those pesky kind of offenses, and especially with the quarterback who just got his first start a week ago. So you don't have the full array of everything that they would possibly do with him. So it's kind of an annoyance in the sense that they have to get ready for a different kind of offense than what they're typically accustomed to.
Yeah, Michael, you pointed out a couple things going into this game and some stories that you put out. Some of the biggest points for people to look at, and something we talk about every single week, is this wide receiver core and who is emerging as kind of wide receiver one, if you will, for Bryce Young. Who is going to be his main target? In your opinion, is there a guy that's kind of made his mark? Obviously, Trayshawn Holden has done some good things, but I still feel like there's some question marks. We're not really seeing just that high caliber guy that we've seen in years past, that go-to guy.
Yeah, I feel like there are a lot of co-stars in that receiver room, and not maybe a leading actor if we're talking about awards season. And it's the kind of thing where last year Jamison Williams came in, and Jamison Williams, John Mechie had a very good contrast for each other, where Williams was over top, Mechie underneath. You kind of had the two different levels that they both kind of mastered, and you don't have the guy at this point right now that's taking the top off the defense like a Jamison Williams. The way he was able to get so deep, so it was so fast, get behind defenses, it changed the way that the defenses played them. And that was, I think, the idea with Tyler Harrell coming in from Louisville, and he's yet to play a similar type of speed guy, track guy. He's had a foot injury, hasn't played in the first 3 games, and haven't heard much about him coming into this one. So there's not a whole lot of hope that he'll be out there JoJo Earl is a guy hurt preseason. Was Saban even himself, who doesn't compare players to anybody else, a year ago said he was kind of like Jalen Waddle. So you have a couple guys on the bench. Aaron Anderson, a true freshman who was highly rated,
Yeah.
could have made an impact. He's just now getting back into practice. So there's a lot of talent that hasn't seen the field yet. But yeah, so far from what has been seen, a lot of the same guys that were in the championship game against Georgia. Jermaine Burton coming from Georgia, who had a couple big catches, 5 catches in the first game, but only 3 in the 2 games since. So you haven't seen that guy, that alpha, who's really taken charge, who's going to be, in that key situation. Who are they going to be looking for?
Sure. One guy that we have seen take charge is Bryce Young. I think we have some numbers on him to through the season. Here they are right here. This is from last week against La Monroe. Michael, does it make it more impressive that Bryce Young is getting done what he is getting done, not only numbers wise, but we saw him have that moment at Texas, despite really not having that standout guy, despite maybe not having the weapons that he used to. He's kind of working with what he has. He's like when it comes to basketball phrase, he's like the point guard that kind of makes everyone around him better. To me, I think it's even more impressive that he is still playing at a high level that he's playing at without having really the supporting cast that he maybe had a season ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of when they need something to happen, they make it happen. Against Texas, when they were struggling offensively, that whole second to third quarters were just about as bad as they've looked in a while. Kind of like the Iron Bowl from a year ago, but he really turned it on in that fourth quarter. Was finding players. I think the game plan, they loosened up the play calling a little bit from what Nick Saban was saying. So, but it's sort of the instinctive plays that he makes. The one that everyone talks about, the way he ducked that sack to run for 20 yards and set up that field goal, the game-winning field goal. It's those kind of things that he can do that makes him a little bit different from the other guys in the past, maybe a little bit too alike, but very quick, not always looking to run, but can when he wants to. But I think the whole idea is that the hurry-up offense has worked very well for them, and I'll be curious to see moving forward, maybe not as much into this game, but in the next 3 to come, how much they try to integrate that into more of a standardized look as opposed to end of half, end of game, when they absolutely need to do that.
Michael, we know how popular the transfer portal has become. One guy who has benefited from that, Tyler Steen, the Vanderbilt transfer, now playing for Alabama. He joked this week that Tide coaches were asking him for some pointers, kind of what kind of insight he can give about this Vanderbilt team. It's just one of the many storylines that we see throughout college football right now, where guys are playing against a team they were playing for a year ago because the transfer portal rules, because the conference transfer rules have changed.
Yeah, no, and he's been a big addition that you wouldn't normally think of. Alabama finding their left tackle from Vanderbilt. It's kind of, even thinking about it, just saying it now, it sounds kind of wild. But yeah, they definitely had a need on the offensive line, and it seems like he's done pretty well filling in. And the other name, I realized and thought about it yesterday, Joseph Bulavas, going the other direction, Alabama's former kicker. It's been 3 years since he, I think, was on Alabama's team, but now he's been the starting kicker at Vanderbilt the last 2 years, kicked a couple game-winning kicks a year ago. So another homecoming of that sense, going the other direction.
Yeah, something tells me if this game were to be competitive in any way, there will be some Twitter people having some fun with former Alabama kickers, of course. It could be a big night for Alabama when it comes to offense and points put on the board. Vanderbilt ranks below 100 in total defense. I mean, this really seems like we said off the top of the show about the Alabama defense, just playing complementary football, playing to the best, playing not error-free football, so to speak. Seems like that kind of serves the same purpose for the offense going into this game, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, Vanderbilt gave up a lot of big numbers to Elon, big numbers to Wake Forest and Northern Illinois. So it's offensively, maybe they're making some strides to putting up some points, but they're giving up quite a few as well. So it wouldn't be surprising if Alabama put up some bigger numbers against this defense that just hasn't performed well against lower level competition. So when you put them up against elite athletes like this, I think it has the potential to get ugly early.
Yeah, this is the Bama pregame show brought to you by Medical Properties Trust. Mark Casagrande will be at tonight's game, 6:30 at Bryant-Denny Stadium. The road ahead does not get much easier, Michael, for Alabama. Like you said off the top of the show, this is kind of their final tune-up, no disrespect to Vanderbilt, but before the road really does get difficult at Arkansas, A&M game that everyone's talking about, at Tennessee, who's playing well. When you look at the outlook there, it seems like this game is really important when it comes to, okay, what does Bama need to work on to improve themselves prior going into this gauntlet of the season?
Yeah, there really can't be too many questions exiting Saturday night tonight, because they're heading into really a snake pit, starting at Arkansas, a very difficult place to play, very loud place to play when that team is good, and they've had a few close calls there. 2010 probably should have lost that game. 2017, 2014. I think that was a 14-13 game. So
Mhm.
they've come close, and I think there's an appetite for this team. Arkansas hasn't beat Alabama since Saban has been head coach, so I think they have a big game today against A&M to see if they can enter this game next week undefeated. So yeah, I mean, Arkansas, A&M, Tennessee. I think Tennessee, that third game in that 3-game stretch is going to be could be as interesting as any of them if they can continue to on the same trajectory. They can beat Florida today.
Yeah,
It could be an interesting day in Neyland Stadium that third
no doubt about
October.
that. Third Saturday in October, always one to look forward to. Looking around the SEC, you just mentioned that 2:30 CBS kickoff, Florida, Tennessee, a top 20 matchup. Arkansas, A&M today as well. Auburn hosts Missouri. That's an early kickoff at 11. Just the SEC slate is here finally, Michael. We're getting into conference play. We're getting into the nitty gritty. And it seems like, you know, it's early, but these games matter. I mean, when you look down the road, when you look at the college football playoff implications, these are must-win games for anybody that wants to be a part of the conversation several weeks from now.
It's just going to shape the conversation for who's good this season, what wins mean something moving forward. Right now those Arkansas, A&M, Tennessee seem like a very important stretch, but it only takes a few games to knock a team back to reality, reassess how good a team is. Florida came out the first week, beat top 10 Utah, and we're like, this team's great. Here they come, lose the next week to Kentucky. So I think Florida has a lot to prove. But if Tennessee can beat them, they've got LSU after that before Alabama. If they can enter that game undefeated, I can only imagine what Neyland Stadium is going to be like. But yeah, A&M, Arkansas in Arlington today, that's big for both teams. Alabama's next two opponents facing each other. So you'll see, neither one of those teams will come in undefeated. They can't both come in undefeated against Alabama, but you'll see what these two teams are capable of. I think last year was kind of a surprising. That's when Arkansas beat A&M and kind of announced themselves as being back in the SEC discussion, and also set up A&M to look like a team that wasn't as good, and then entering the Alabama game came in and did what they did. So it's a game I'm going to be watching closely.
No doubt about it. It should be a much more entertained week this week than it was a week ago, as we are now getting into conference play. Alabama Vanderbilt kickoff at 6:30 at Bryant-Denny Stadium under the lights. Y'all enjoy it. If you're going to the game, stay safe in Tuscaloosa. And Auburn over on the other side of the state, 11 o'clock kickoff against Missouri. So guys, thanks so much for tuning in to the Alabama pregame show brought to you by Medical Properties Trust. For Michael Casagrande, I'm Simone Eli. We will see y'all back here for the postgame show. Have a good Saturday.
Medical Properties Trust, at the very heart of healthcare.